Great. Awesome. So welcome everybody. Clarissa in the building. Good to see you on, Clarissa. So today's discussion is the Burr method. Okay, I know you guys might have a lot of curiosity about it. We're hoping to clear the air and elaborate a little bit more on doing a good Burr, because there are plenty of bad Burrs and you never hear about the bad Burr. I have done a bad Burr. I'll share my experience with you guys if you want, but we're going to talk more about the good Burr.
Absolutely. What we got here? Everybody in the room is a repeat attendee, so we appreciate you guys coming back in. Anybody that's watching on the other ones that doesn't know me, my name is Seth. I'm a real estate investor based out of Morgantown, West Virginia and Richmond, Virginia. Been investing in real estate since about 2019 and a focus on small to medium multifamily projects that I hold. Also do a lot of wholesaling.
Awesome. Guys, I'm Ray Glimp, over 100 doors, 10 million in real estate deals, several features, but you guys know my favorite thing every Tuesday is meeting with you guys, a group of real estate investors, people looking to become real estate investors, whether it be buying your first or buying your next deal. We are happy to be here every Tuesday. We appreciate you guys being here and tuning in every Tuesday. And if you can, share it with friends, make sure your people know, make sure you post it on social media, share it on Instagram, YouTube. We got people on YouTube, we got people on Facebook watching. So we appreciate you guys all being here.
Absolutely. Let's make the lawyer happy here. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and the guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. The content provided is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. Listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research and consult with appropriate professionals before making any decisions based on the information provided in this podcast. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk.
Awesome. All right. Cool. So next, gold diggers, we love to hear from you guys. If anybody has had any small wins, big wins, we'd love to hear from you, sharing with us. This is a place that we love to hear great achievements for this week. Nobody got anything done this week? Is that what you guys are telling me? Have you guys just been relaxing and chilling this week?
Oh, man.
Well, I guess I'll start.
There we go.
So the 3 properties that I found off market, the guy finally got back with me after I provided him some information. So hopefully on Thursday, I'll go look at the properties.
Good.
So,
that's a good win.
It's taken it's slower than I thought, I guess. So I think as I thought I would be able to, find something, get in and see it within that same week. But it's not. It's taking its good old time. So I didn't realize that it's been a slow process for me, at least. So
yeah, real estate isn't fast.
Yeah, it's funny too because the off-market game is totally different, right? And that's kind of why realtors get paid the commissions that they get paid to help move that process along. But when you're the buyer and you're working directly with the seller, lining those two agendas up is a pain sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else with some? Yeah.
Anybody else got any wins for the week?
I want to congratulations to Seth. You found a buyer today and under contract.
Yes.
Good job. Very quick.
Congrats, Seth.
Yeah. Right.
Seth
So
keeping in his small
I
win.
referred another buyer and a seller to my partner in Columbus last week.
Awesome, Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. Congratulations.
I hope we can work it out.
Yeah, good luck.
Anybody else? Small wins.
Floor kind of feed mine away, but go ahead, Matt. You go.
I just got a phone call from one of my past clients. He referred me to one of his best friends who's also looking to purchase a house. So I just picked up a referral today, not too long ago, while I was getting this health and wellness in. So that's a small win for me. So I'm pretty excited about that, starting the process for him.
Congrats.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll go, guys. I officially announced that I am speaking at the multifamily conference in Toronto, Toronto's biggest real estate conference. I'm happy to be there. If you guys want to come up, I'd love to see you guys. If I haven't seen you in person, a lot of you I haven't seen in person in a long time, I'd love to see you. If you are at the real estate conference, multifamily real estate conference in Toronto, come see me.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. For kind of hinted at mine for this week. So actually my acquisitions guy in Richmond, he's been killing it. And he kind of filled in on the disposition side and got a property under contract for us out there in Petersburg, Virginia today. And then I was able to secure a buyer for my property here in Fairmont today as well. So we got 2 properties put under contract today with end buyers. So that's always good.
Congrats. And Ashley also said she ordered some advertising materials for her business. Ashley's been grinding, guys. I talked to her the other day. She's grinding. So awesome to hear, Ashley.
Good job.
And to the people on YouTube, Instagram, if you have any small wins, put them in the chat. We love to hear from you guys, even though you're not with us on here. We still love to hear from you guys. So awesome. Okay. On to the breaking news. So this is as of what, today, Seth? Yesterday? Yesterday? Awesome. Blackstone, $10 billion deal, and they're betting on properties. They're betting on real estate, and they're betting big. This is $10 billion. They bought it in cash. So it'd be nice to have $10 billion to just drop in cash and not think about it. But they are betting on real estate appreciation going up, and they're paying a premium for it. But I mean, Blackstone's one of the companies I think that own the world as a whole. So I try to follow the money, and if you follow the money, you'll have great success. So I think, guys, we're all in this room to learn about real estate. And if they're doing it, this is something you definitely, I think, should want to be a part of.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's highlighted there, the all cash deal, but more importantly, right below, I didn't even really notice it, but it's a 25% premium on what it's currently being traded at.
Mm-hmm.
So to pay cash for something 125% of its value, they know something's going to happen, right?
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So the meat and potatoes of today is the BRRRR. Okay. I know a lot of you say you want to do a BRRRR. I'm going to go over the acronym: buy, renovate, rent, refi, repeat. Okay. A BRRRR isn't for everybody. Okay. I want to keep that clear. Especially if you don't have time. And Seth, you could speak on this. It could be very time consuming to do a good BRRRR, right? You got to analyze the property, buy it right. You got to worry about the renovation process. Then you got to deal with the bank. If you are a busy person and, like, let's just say you work a full-time job and then you got family, it could be very tough to do a BRRRR. I know Casey is in the building. I know Casey's working on some BRRRRs too. It can be very difficult to do a BRRRR. So this isn't for everybody. I would say your first deal, you probably don't want to do a BRRRR. Right, I'd say you could force some value, but a BRRRR is going to be a little bit difficult. And there's a difference between buying something undervalued and, forcing a little bit and doing a complete large BRRRR deal, right? With that involves complex renovation, working with the banks closely. There are a lot of pieces to this, so hopefully we can explain and deep dive further into it.
Yep. Actually, somebody that I've done a lot of deals with in the Richmond market, he's done a lot of BRRRRs and spoken on it before and stuff like that. And BRRRR that acronym has been around for a couple of years, but this strategy has been around well before that, right? It just didn't have a fancy acronym to it. Yeah. But he made a really good point when he was speaking about it, that the refinance is kind of like the most important part. And as we kind of go through this, you'll see that even when you're in the buy stage, all the other stages affect your decisions. When you're in the renovate stage, all the other steps should be affecting your decision as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So the buy, right? And I think personally, the buy going into any product, the buy is what I'm looking at because I got to buy it right? I got to buy it under value, right? That's the biggest thing because I'm going to force appreciation on this thing. I can't buy a project that needs rehab and buy it for market rates after rehab. It just wouldn't make any sense. I have to buy it with a spread involved. Use your calculator, not emotion. Seth wrote that. That is beautiful, Seth. You know, a lot of people, oh, I love this house or I love this neighborhood. And it just is not a good deal. It's not a good deal. So use your calculator. Seth wrote that down when we were making these slides. And I was like, damn, I love that, man, because so many people miss that part. They just go and buy it because they love the neighborhood. The next part, go ahead.
Buffett, by the way.
Huh?
I stole that from Warren Buffett.
Oh, did you? Oh, well, good. See, look, I gave you credit too. Have the end in mind. And like Seth was mentioning, you want to think about the refinance. You want to think about the repeat process. You want to have that all in mind while you are doing a BRRRR. Okay, that is very important. Will your value add be enough to pull out your cash at the refi step? That's also something very important, you know, thinking about the end. If I'm going to do this value, you know, how much money is going to be left? What's my spread? You know, can I buy turnkey? As we wrote, turnkey rarely ever works out, right? It rarely ever works out. Now, I've gotten some turnkey, but I bought it right, all right? Like I've purchased properties that were under market value, and they were turnkey, but I just bought it right. This person sold it wrong, okay? And I got lucky with that one. But usually, 90% of the time, to get a turnkey BRRRR, it ain't gonna happen. And also, buy an appreciated market. And I think that's a very important one we can't underlook. And me and Seth talked about this earlier, guys, and I want to share it. You can BRRRR anywhere in the United States, right? But when you BRRRR, you are holding for long term, right? Because you're taking new debt on this. You're at least holding for at least 5 years, right? Possibly 10. You're taking on long-term debt with this thing. So when you pull that money out, you got to think, okay, this market has to be good. I'm going to have to be able to find renters continuously over the next 5-10 years. I want my property value to go back up in the next 5-10 years. If you do a BRRRR in the wrong part of an area in a depreciating market, you're going to have problems finding tenants, right? You're not going to get the appreciation that you need. So make sure that you're buying in an appreciating market. I don't care if it's 3%, 5%, 8%. Just make sure there is some appreciation. There is some growth in that area. And I don't remember if you guys remember, I talked about a deal that was, you know, a couple towns over. Seth, I don't know if you remember that, where it was like in a dying town, right? So I could have BRRRRed that, right? Could have got my money back out of it. I would have got no renters, guys. And I would have failed on that property. So yeah, I could have had my money back out of it, but I would have failed on the debt side, right? So it wouldn't have been a good deal. So when you BRRRR, you want to think, and me specifically, I'm thinking 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the line, what does this property look like for me? And any questions on the BRRRR side before we move on, guys? If you need, unmute yourself or put it in the chat. We can go on, Seth.
All right. Yeah, I think that the one of the strongest ones here is to have the end in mind. Know that when you're buying, right, when you're running your numbers and stuff like that, that's where the refi and the repeat come into play here. Is your lender gonna give you 80% of appraised value or 70% of appraised value? Because that's going to make a huge difference on what your spread needs to be and how much value you're going to need to add with that ARV after repair value has got to be for this property. And then knowing what your renovations are and stuff like that. And do you have the time, the effort, the money to be able to put into those things as well?
Yeah. And guys, the BRRRR, the next step is a very energy intensive step. It's the renovation. right? And I don't care. Everybody I know in this game, the renovation takes time, right? It is a mental step. It is a planning process. There is a lot that goes into the renovation that you cannot discount. Working with the wrong general contractor. So you got to make sure that your renovation is solid. You know exactly what you're doing, what type of finishes you want to do. Know your comps and levels of renovation required. So again, I'll share with you guys, when I first got started, I renovated a place to a B class property. It was in a D neighborhood, right? The comps didn't support it. There was no value in doing that. So you got to make sure that the level of renovation that you're using is comparable with what your end game is, right? So again, it's an exit strategy, right? What's my exit? Even if you're going to refinance, you want to have 2 or 3 exits. And even though these are the steps in the order that they happen, every step plays a part, right? Every step is a piece of this, right? These same principles we apply to all of this. Think about what future tenant you're looking for, right? That's a big part of renovation too. And you guys hear me, like if it's a Section 8 tenant, there might not be things like a dishwasher or, mid-grade fans or mid-grade cabinets. It might be the Lowe's bottom grade cabinets, because I'm thinking with the tenant in mind. I'm thinking about, my long-term strategy. I'm thinking about the refi side. So I've done projects, again, where I've done, mid-grade, and it didn't really need mid-grade. It didn't really force the value. So you want to think about, okay, what in this project, what does my future tenant pool look like for this? And then finally,
like the water line for an ice maker in the refrigerator, right? Like they're in D's and C's and Section 8s and stuff like that. Like that's another thing that's going to break and give you a CapEx expense, right? Like don't worry about having an ice maker in your fridge.
Yeah.
Buy the lower end fridges, the simple fridges that don't have the ice makers and stuff like that. But that's going to eat into your budget, right? I mean, that could cost an extra $500 for a plumber to run that line, and then drywall guy to cut in the box and everything else that goes along with it.
And it could be even something like the appliance package, right? Maybe you go all white versus stainless steel. That might save you $300, $400, $500. What's your refi value on that? Is that going to force the value? Those are all things you guys need to consider. And then if it does, then you factor that in. But what's your end tenant like, right? What's your end goal with this property? So we're always thinking exit and long-term in mind, especially when I do a burr. And then have a detailed scope of work and stick to your budget, right? And it's so easy during rehab time and renovation time to be like, oh, well, I think this looks better, right? Again, that emotion. As investors, we got to cut emotion out of it. Every successful investor will tell you there is no emotion to this. It is done with a purpose, and we execute with a purpose. All right, so take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, the scope of work is huge, because if you don't have a detailed scope of work and the first time that you're working with your contractor, or the 10th time that you're working with your contractor, if you don't have that detailed scope of work, you're going to come up with change orders. You're going to come up with issues. You're going to come up with his vision is different than what your vision is, right? And then you're gonna walk in one day and you're like, why do the cabinets look like that? You didn't tell me. You didn't give me a layout for what the cabinets need to be. So I'll put in 12 boxes. Well, you only needed 6. There are 12 in there now. You're paying for them, buddy.
Yep. And even during the renovation phase, I like to go to my properties during renovation. I want to see what's going on. So the renovation period, I got a reno right now. It's tough. I mean, you just got to stop by. You got to make time for it. And even though you might not be the one physically doing the work, you're doing some work on a burr. Okay. Tim put, I used to blame my contractors, but when stuff goes wrong, it's on us as the investor / project manager. Correct. You're the project manager. And guys, I think in our coursework, there is a scope of work if you guys want to look at, and it should be like on I think it's in your calculator, one of your calculators. Use that. Like, what type of flooring am I doing? Have a clear vision when you go meet your contractor, because that'll save you money in the end too, right? Because the contractor will hit you with a change order real quick. And we talked to, Eric Paul Escobar. He was on here, talking about some of the hardships that contractors go through. If you want to find a good contractor, keep it simple. Let them know exactly the details. and be consistent with them, right? So if they learn like, hey, this is how this person works, they know for the next project your level of expectations.
Also, Ray said that in the beginning of the renovate stage, right? Like this is the thing that, you know, it's going to take the most effort. It's going to suck the most time. Like you have to be there. I've gone by on a renovation that I'm doing right now. And when I leave my house on my way to the office that I have, I'll stop by and I'll look at the property. The problem is that my contractor, it hasn't gotten there yet. He hasn't started his day yet. He's taking care of some other things almost every day. So while I'm actually walking the property, that morning doesn't really do anything for me. That visit to the property doesn't really do anything for me because he's not there. So now I have to I have to reach out to him, find out when he is, and then fit that into my day to be able to go back to that property. Right. Whereas if they're there at 9 o'clock in the morning when I'm there, then I can take care of everything one shot, one time. End up going to these properties 5, 6, 7, 8 times a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I popped up on my contract today. He had his headphones in. He was going to work though. You know, so the renovate part, I think, is the most stressful of the whole process. Do you agree with that, Seth? Is the renovation the most stressful?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Stressful in stages.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And again, if you guys have any questions, just drop it in the chat. We'll get to them as we go through this. In YouTube, Instagram, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. We'd love to get with you as well. The rent part. All right. Know your market rents based on a fair market rent. What's the demand for tenants in your area? So again, that goes back to the buying part. And it goes to the renovation part. Now, you want to make sure that your property, depending on, has a newer look and a newer feel than most properties that are hitting the market. Now, that doesn't mean going to high-end cabinets. That could mean something like paint and floor choices, right? Is this an upgrade from a different tenant to pay, more or market rents, right? So even if they're paying the same amount, you won't have a problem because your property is a little bit better than what's on the market right now. So I always try to make it just a little bit better. So it might be color choices, might be maybe a better upgrade, a light fixture, but I want to make sure that there is a demand for tenants in my market. Make sure that, again, not invest in a depreciating area where there's no population or population's dying down. Jobs are being lost, making sure that you are investing in the right area. And this is a high level thought. Pre-lease your properties, right? And if you guys haven't done this, if you're in a burr right now, and let's say it's your second, or let's just say it's your second property and it's a burr, show what your other properties look like, right? Hey, look, I'm looking to list a property similar to this one. The rents will be ... It will be located ... Start advertising it now. Have a list of people, so by the time you are wrapping up with your renovation, you're already leased, right? You've already got a security deposit. You already got a tenant in place. You're done, right? That's high level. So we call this a lease up period in multifamily real estate. We call it a lease up period. So as we're building one, we might have a model unit. So if you buy a duplex, triplex, make one of those units, just market it, get it clean, market it. Hey, look, we got 2 more similar to this coming right now. Right? A lot of people message you, hey, I'm looking to move in June. I'm looking to move in July. On my board, you can't see it right here. I got a whiteboard and I got everybody that's listed that, hey, I want to move in June and July. These are my apartments coming up here. Right? So I already have them pre-leased. So by the time a tenant moves out, we got another tenant hopefully coming in. So we don't have that vacancy, right? Because vacancy rate, we put it in our calculator, but it's a real number, right? If you go, every day you go without a tenant is money you're losing. Every day. Right. I can't stress that enough. So and I hear guys that's like, yeah, I'm going to bump my rent up to $150, $200 more. Great. How long is it going to take you to find that tenant? How long is the place going to be vacant? Some people wait a month to try to get more rent and they don't analyze their numbers. If you ran your numbers, you would understand that it costs you more than that little bump up you got.
What is on your calculator? What's your factor for vacancy?
So it depends on the area, anywhere from 3 to 5%.
Just think about that for a second. Let's do the high end, right? On a 5%.
Yeah, 5%. Let's say a rent is $1,000, $50 a month.
That's 18.25 days in the year.
Yep.
It's not a month, right?
Yep.
So for that fake vacancy rate to factor in at its high end at 5% for the entire year, that property can't be vacant more than 18 days.
Yep. So you need to turn that. You need to turn that. Pre-leasing is going to be the key to it, right? As soon as the tenant says, "Hey, look," because I got it in a lease, I think, and for you guys, you got a sample copy of my lease. Make sure you consult with attorney. But in a lease, you have, if you don't renew in 60 days, I got the right to come in and start showing your place, right? I got 60 days, guys, to find a tenant, right? That gives me an advantage to not have a vacancy. So that is the powerful point of like pre-lease and making sure you do this. And then because the other step is like when you go to refi, which is the next step, you got to wait till you got the place rented, right? If you ain't got a tenant, you ain't refining. You can try to based on appraisal rate and tell them, hey, I might have a tenant. But the rent is another point that'll push the appraisal back up. And then set up managing the property management. If you're going to manage it, make sure you have those systems in place. Anything you want to add to that, Seth?
No, sir. You are the rental king.
No, I don't know if I'm a king.
I defer to you to tenants.
And if you guys have any questions on this too, please feel free to key in. Stop us at any time. I'm happy to answer tonight. So, and we're always happy to answer. So,
absolutely.
Okay, the refinance part. This is where we start to cash out. Don't get too excited yet, though. Right? Construction's done. Right? 100% done. You can start doing your paperwork 90% done. Start getting that paperwork submitted. That's my secret. 90% I'll start getting the paperwork submitted. Have your funding options in place at the beginning. Right? So if you guys remember, I bought on Jack Tulach. I bought on Jack Tulach from Easy Street Capital. They do both. So if I'm doing a bird, they'll give me the bridge loan. They'll give me the construction debt on it. And then when I go to refi, I'm going with their company. They already know I'm going with them, and it's a bubble, right? It's a big circle. So they're going to give me better rates. Now, if I go with them for construction and I shop the refi somewhere else, which you're totally fine to, you may end up paying more points because you went from bank to bank. You know, so if you can keep it all in house and everybody knows, hey, it's going to be all in house, give you a discount usually. Okay. But you want to have that mapped out from the beginning. Even though this is one of the last steps, from the beginning, right? We can't stress that. Know your seasoning period. Okay, Seth, you want to speak a little bit more on that? Because I know it varies and they just made some changes. I'm pretty comfortable with it, but if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, for a long time, it was 6 months. So you had to own the property for 6 months. You had to be on title for 6 months before you could do a refinance. Mm-hmm. Basically, what it meant is that you'd have to go with that conventional purchase of 20% down on your purchase price to get that 80% value that you're looking to typically get lent on. And then when it's seasoned, that means that they're allowing you to use the appraised value of the property instead of your purchase price. So even if you didn't qualify for the seasoning, you bought the property for $100,000, even though you got an appraisal at $200,000 because your value add, until it's seasoned, they can only use your purchase price. They can't use that appraised value until that property is considered seasoned. Banks now are going at 90 days for some banks. Some banks like Easy Street, I know Kiabi, the one that we use a lot, they will waive the seasoning period if they have the bridge and they want to roll in. Sometimes you get better rates if the seasoning period is at 180 days versus 90 days too, depending on the different lenders that you have. But it's important to know, that's why it's important to have that stuff up front, because if you have that stuff up front, now you know, hey, I've got a 15-day renovation, right? So once I own this property in 15 days, I got to own it for 90 days. So yeah, maybe I have time to do some more stuff, or I know that I'm going to have to sit on that bridge loan with that interest-only payment or whatever it is for a certain amount of time before I can actually pull my cash back out.
Yeah. And that even goes to your renovation. We can go back even to your refi to renovation period, is making sure that your renovation is completed in enough time that your bridge loan doesn't overlap, right? And then you got to ask for extension, because that's something people don't talk about. If your construction go wrong on a bird, guys, you got to have the right contractor. If your construction go wrong, maybe you got to fire your contractor. You got to bring another contractor, but they're not available for 2 months. You're paying interest on that debt, right? If you took
only most of the time,
if you took construction debt, that is. But and most people do. If you take that construction debt, you're paying on that every month. And if you overlap that period, they're gonna hit you with fees. They're gonna hit you with penalties. So be prepared for that. Budget for it. That's when it comes to buying right. Just be prepared for it more than anything. And we're just here to open you guys' eyes, not to scare you, but just to open your eyes. Know your seasoning period. Maximize your appraised value. So forcing value, and that can be anything from. I look at it as part of the renovation stage, Seth.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that as like right now on a bird that I'm doing, we're adding a bathroom, right?
Yep.
That's a cheap addition that'll have a value of about like 25, 30,000, right?
Yep.
And we're not doing anything special in the bathroom. We're adding some plumbing, a toilet, and a pedestal sink, and a light fixture or vanity and light fixture, right?
The triplex that I'm doing right now, it was a 3-bedroom, then a 3-bedroom, and then the top floor was a 2-bedroom. And where that 3rd bedroom typically is was a mechanical room that had all the hot water heaters and furnaces and stuff like that all in one place. We were running all new lines for plumbing anyway. So I was able to relocate the hot water heaters into every unit. And then when I upgraded my furnaces and stuff like that, now I just opened it up. Now I turned it into 3 3-bedrooms instead of 2 3s and a 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
So that's going to increase my appraisal value. It's also going to increase my rent. So it's going to increase my cash flow.
Yeah.
And I was already doing the stuff anyway. I was already running the line. So it really didn't cost me anything.
And then when we think about the, maximizing your appraised value, I know this gets kind of in a multifamily, but I want to share this anyway. Separating utilities could be a big addition. And this could be a duplex, a triplex. Separating that can add value to the property. It adds value to your bottom line, right? So if you're doing that as part of your renovation, it might not seem like it's going to add value right now, but if it's while you're doing this work, it's going to be a lot cheaper to do it while you're doing this work. It can add value in the long term, right? Over 5 years, 10 years. That's what you want to think about. I got a property that I manage right now, and the tenants were abusing the utilities. There's 5 air conditioners in there running at all times. The tenant had the heat turned up to 80 degrees. It's summertime here, guys. It's 77 outside. They had the heat turned up to 80 degrees. So they'll abuse the utilities. So those are the things that you kind of want to think about. And I got an 8-unit complex. We have a boiler system. I'm going to delete the boiler system because I pay for that, right? I'm going to put mini splits in each unit. It's going to cost me about $40,000, $50,000 to do that for all the units. In the end game, though, I'm going to save that money on the water bill, the gas bill. I'm going to save that monthly. So it might not be a big return now, but overall, when we go to refi this property, they're going to say, okay, this counts to your benefit now. So huge savings. Making sure the property is positive cash flow. This is like, and guys, you will hit a part in a refi, and I hope you never hit it because we're doing these classes. I've hit parts where it was like, man, I'm only going to cash flow like 300 or 400 if I take all my money out. I need more cash flow than that, right? To make sure I support this property. I cannot pull all this money out of it. I might have to leave some money in the deal. And that happens, especially in today's market, right? People thought they had a 4% interest rate. Boom, 7%. I got to leave money in this deal. The bank won't allow you to take out the money sometimes, right? If you think, okay, I'm going to get an 80%, 75, bank lending might be getting tougher. They might say 70. Private money might, like Yavi or Easy Street, they might do 75 if you got experience. They might do 80, 70. I had a guy call me and say, hey, do 85. I was like, holy smokes. But even at those rates, at 85, there's not enough cash flow in that property usually, right? So you want to make sure that you got enough cash flow to support the property. Because $100 a month in cash flow, if you're doing a bird, you only got $100 a month in cash flow. Yeah, you pulled your money out, but as soon as something breaks, you're putting your money back in.
Yep. With no way to pull it out.
No way. It's stuck in there now.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, so you want to make sure that you have enough cash flow to support this property for the long term. I don't care if it's a duplex, triplex. Eddie and I were talking today, and Eddie, I'm going to put your business out there. I hope you don't mind, but Eddie and I were talking today, and he found a property. and it was like a break even. But the second something happens, it's not if, but it's when. When that happens, boom, out of pocket. The last thing I want for you guys to do is have to come out of the pocket. We are investors. We invest to make money, right? The property should be self-sufficient. It should be a business. So I do not want you to have to take money out of your pocket. I want you to find this property that cash flows for you, especially after the refi process, right? It needs to cash flow, positive cash flow.
Tim commented too. He said, scary to only make $100. That's true. I actually, when I first got into it, I was talking to somebody, and he was saying how he never sells properties. All he does is this burr, and he used burr like 75 times. And he said his calculators, as long as his calculator comes back and it says that he's positive $100, he's happy. Yeah. You know what? That guy doesn't invest anymore. He's broke.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, and then he also said Kiabi is on fire. Love to know if he gets their 100% program or not.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Somebody want to comment in?
No, I was just saying about the Kiabi. I haven't hit the 100% yet, but I'm at 95, 80.
There you go.
Yeah, it's scary to be able to. Now I've done burrs where in commercial real estate where I got all my money back and then some, and the property still cash flows great. I got great appreciation. For the average investor, yeah, you could leave. There might be properties where you're getting great appreciation. $100 is a scary line to walk. $200 sometimes for especially when I'm talking bigger properties too. It could be very scary. Some people invest with appreciation in mind, and they might be investing like Arizona, Texas, just higher appreciating areas, and they might just be trying to get into the game. Unless you have the reserves and other property to back that, again, still not a big fan of it. Again, I think you need to buy it right. You overpaid or you over renovated, right? The rents aren't high enough to compensate for what you need to pull out, because the point of this is to pull it out, right? Pull out the beginning equity and reinvest, okay? And typically in a burr, and I'll tell you guys, typically the goal in the burr is to always have one property paid off. That was the original method, was like, okay, I'm gonna buy one, and then the next property I'll buy, it'll be paid off. There will always be a property paid off to support the debt. So if anything happens, I'm okay. Right now we got high debt. A lot of people are over leveraged. And the number one reason you will hear people fail in this industry is over leverage. Simply, they just they ran out of money. They ran out of capital.
Yep.
All right. Finally, the repeat. Oh shit, we already jumped into it. Okay. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. I was sometimes I get in my zone, Seth.
That's fine.
So you don't always need to pull out 100% of your cash out, as long as you have positive cash flow. Okay. So some people get so fascinated again on pulling 100% out. I only cash flow $100 or $200. That is not the best case scenario, guys. That is not the best. If possible, you'll see a lot of investors, they'll leave 40%, 50% into the deal to make sure they got enough cash flow to support it. And then maybe eventually later down the line, interest rates drop, they might refi, pull the rest of that cash back out tax-free. You don't need to pull it out all at the beginning, right? That could be, I'll tell you right now, I got properties with 40%, 50%, some 60. I did math today. I got some with 70% paid for, right? I could pull that money out. It makes me no benefit right now, though, right? I'd rather let the property cash flow nicely. We got great debt. I'll let it cash flow nicely. You don't always need to pull out 100% of that money.
Also, when you're doing the refi and stuff like that, you're talking to the DSCR, like the guy from Easy Street, a great person to talk about what is his programs at 70% of appraised value, 75% and 80% of appraised value. He may lend all the way up to 80%, and it may take you 76% of your appraised value to pull the cash that it took you to get into the deal out, to get 100% of your cash out. It may take you that 76 number. So that's great, but your terms at 70% could end up getting you for the next 30 years an extra $75, $80 a month cash flow.
Yeah.
because the rates are going to be better and you don't have to pay an extra point up front or whatever it is.
And again, you go with this in mind from the beginning, Seth, right? You go with this. This is all beginning steps, right? You know what your strategy is. You know, like, hey, if I got to leave some money into it, I'm fine leaving money into it because this thing will cash flow and I'll get the money back off of the cash flow. Again, next step, know your cash on cash return. You are looking at the cash flow from this to pay you back, right? Not necessarily the refi. Some people rely so much on a refi versus the cash flow. And again, I have deals I got, and it happened during when interest rates rose. We had a deal that was interest rates were 4%. By the time we wrapped up, it was like 7%. We gotta leave money in this deal. That's it, right? We could take our money back, but it ain't gonna be good, right? Leave the money in it. Cool. We'll move on to the next one.
It also goes back to that buy portion. The age-old calculation is 70% of ARV minus repairs, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason for that, because if you're at all in 70% of what your ARV is that appraised value, really, after repair value, after you force your appreciation. If you're at 70% there, you should be able to pull your money out. If you're calculating your buy at 80% minus, 80% of your ARV minus repairs, if you got closing costs, you got commissions, you got a bunch of other stuff, not to mention overages on your renovation that are going to factor into it. You might be 90% all in, and then you're not going to get all your money. So buying right, using formulas like that 70%, that's not just some random number that somebody came up with, right? Like there's reasons for the formulas that we all know and use.
But here's the thing too, guys. You could buy right, and then you could mess up your renovation. You could just blow your whole renovation and upgrade too much and do way too much and add this and add that has no value. These aren't just step by step. This encompasses everything. This encompasses every point of this. So it is very important to know that. Finally, find the next deal and recycle your cash. Very important. You want to keep the train rolling as long as possible. Get to your freedom number, whatever your goal is, and continue to build your portfolio until your heart's content, I guess, until you want to stop. And then, because typically we acquire, and then depending on what your strategy is, mine, I have a buy down period or pay down period where after you acquire so many units, pay them off, right? You don't want that debt over your head. Some people do very well with debt. Some people don't sleep very well at night with debt, right? I got millions in debt. Sometimes I just want to sleep a little bit better. I like to have some of it paid off, right? So you want to make sure that you, if possible, go on with your strategy. If you want to keep building and building, if you want to have 50,000 units, go ahead, right? But again, know what your limits are. We got a question in the comments. How do you teach yourself to respect cash flow? This is from Clarissa. I'm at a few hundred a month on my property, but it seems so insignificant. Yes, it is insignificant. That's okay. That is totally okay. It will grow over time. Clarissa, how long have you had that property? I don't know if you could talk. How long have you had that property though?
Well, we bought it in 2019 and it just became a rental for us February 1st of this year.
Good. So it just became a rental though, right? That's okay. You just got here, right?
This is a converted primary residence, right? So it was the primary residence, and then she built her house and kept this as a rental property. It was purchased in 2019 too. So the debt that you have is
great.
Very, very, very good, right?
Great. Yeah. You got good debt. It's not just okay. So sometimes, guys, and I'll tell you this, we get caught up a lot on cash flow, right? We get caught up on appreciation, but you forget about the debt pay down, right? Every month your debt is getting paid down. So you actually get the full amount. You're getting that full amount of that money, right? Because that debt is coming down. Every payment, that debt's coming down. You would be paying that money. So you're really getting that full amount. It's just one less bill that you have to pay now, right? So that the extra $100 in cash, treat it as, and I'll share this with you guys, but treat it as going forward to pay another bill for you, right? Every asset that I buy now pays for something for me, right? I want a car, I get another business first. I get another piece of real estate first. I want a bigger house. I buy another piece of real estate first. Right? Every asset that I buy fuels whatever else I desire. Right? And that's how I purchase at this point in my career. I would encourage you guys, once you get to that point, you guys are purchasing for freedom. You might want time. You might want to quit your W-2. It doesn't just say, okay, it doesn't just happen like, okay, I'm gonna quit. I make $60,000. I'm gonna make $60,000 here. It starts off with like, hey, I'm gonna use this property to make my car payment. I'm gonna use this property to pay my groceries. This property pays my phone bill. This property I could save to put away for my kids for college. That's the respect that I have for it, right? It might only be $100 now, 300, 400. One of the first properties I bought, I was like, man, this money is like a couple $100. I look back right now, that thing's a cash cow, right? The appreciation is through the roof. My debt pay down is great, and it's cash flowing now more than ever. I don't think I'll ever sell that property, right? But it starts small. And a lot of you guys, we see so much, and yeah, I got a bunch of units, and yeah, I got cash flow. Seth's crushing it on his end. But we start, again, with little wins. It's a small win, right? That money is net to you.
What's important for Clarissa, too, is that that wasn't a BRRRR, right? It wasn't purchased with a value add by renovating, then putting tenants in to refinance out and pull your money out so that you have no money in the deal, right? It was purchased as a primary residence and then pivoted. Or even if you thought, I'm going to buy this now, it was a live-in type situation. It was a house hack type situation. That's building up a portfolio, and a portfolio build is a little bit different than a cash flow play. Whereas a portfolio build is the long-term appreciation and equity build, right? You're already 5 years in, so you're what is that? 20%, 18%, something like that, through your loan, right?
Yeah.
Once you get to, 8 years, you start really paying into
10 years. 10 years, it changes at 10.
Yeah, 10 years. So you're halfway to that point of where, like, a majority of that payment that you're paying out is you're paying yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's going towards the principal and it's paying down that balance. So you're almost there where you got to think, yes, you may only be positive cash flow, $250, whatever it is a month, but that debt being at a low rate, like once you cross that threshold, you're putting it into a bank account.
Yeah.
Putting it into a bank account.
Yeah. And I mean, it's money you could tap into eventually. Here's the thing about the BRRRR, guys. You can't tap into all the money. I need y'all to understand that too. You only tap into all the money when you sell it.
Yep.
That's it.
But, I mean, best case scenario, you're tapping into 80%.
Yeah. You have a piggy bank. All right. So piece of the BRRRR is like, okay, well, I got this money. Even though I might not be able to tap into all of it, I have this money here. Every month I'm getting pay down. Right. And that's a piece of real estate as a whole. Every month I'm getting paid down. Right. Somebody else is paying for this property. And I make a little bit of cash flow on the side, right? The cash flow isn't going to make me super rich, but I make a little bit and I can apply it to something else. And Clarissa, we appreciate you asking too. And again, one of my first properties was a property that I bought for my personal residence. I can't look at that as an investment. I got value out of that of a different kind. My family started in that house. That's a different kind of value. You can't put money on that. So think about the value that you got from that house too, not just the financials that you're getting now, but you also got a lot out of that too. You had a roof over your head where you weren't paying rent, so sometimes there's more than just the cash flow now. It's the value that you've gotten over the whole time.
Yep.
That was a great question. Man, it's almost 7:30 already, Seth. Man, we get to it.
I know.
I appreciate you guys being here with us. High value. Any other questions you guys want to drop in the chat, please drop it in the chat before we wrap up. The repeat part, guys, if you want to scale, that's when you hit the repeat. And then eventually when you get to the point where you don't want to scale, you sell off some, get rid of some of the properties that you hate, the ones that are hard to manage, and you keep the good ones.
Yep.
And that's it. That's how you grow your portfolio. Awesome. This has been great. Final Q&A before we get to the quote of the night.
Yeah, anybody got anything? Anybody else got any questions? Maybe not related to the bird that they're facing right now that we can hit.
Joy, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joy. You're not muted.
I have a question. You mentioned burr is labor intensive. So for somebody like me, what is the best strategy for me to scale up?
For you, I would suggest one, purchasing right. You can force values, and I won't talk about whatever deal you got, but you can force values in other ways, such as raising rents, right? Catching the appreciation side, getting the tax benefits. I would say those would be your best benefits, right? Speaking in a wide range, the burr, and we said this at the beginning, it is not for somebody, I will stick by this. It's not for somebody that's super busy, right? If you have a full-time job, and Joy, we know you at work right now, Joy, and I appreciate you being on, but you're busy, right? You can't get up if a contractor is like, hey, we need you to come check this out right now. We got this going on. What are you gonna do?
I'll have somebody do it.
But then you have to be able to trust that somebody. You got to build a team. There is a lot to it. It's not that it's impossible, but there is a lot to it. So in your position, I would say I would rather you force value on appreciation, buying in the right places, forcing value on rents, buying a property right. So that way you can force the rents up. And then I think the depreciation, getting the tax benefits for you, because the real money might come not really from even a property, but the depreciation. You might find that you just saved 50 or 60,000 in taxes every year. Yeah. That little bit of cash flow not hurting you. You don't even need that. Get the depreciation and get that, right? Because imagine if you could offset all your taxes. What does that look like for you?
Yep.
Right.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's one I got.
Seth, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, it's I mean the first R is the problem, right? And if you don't have a team in place that renovate step, like we said, the burr system hardly ever works on a turnkey property, something that is rent ready. Mm-hmm. So it's not that it can't work for somebody. It's not that it's not necessarily a bad investment. It's just not a burr. Right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have that forced appreciation through renovations. And that renovate step is honestly, it's the one that kills the most people, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a great team in place, you've got an amazing general contractor that's not going to, eat into your profits and stuff like that. And you can trust them 100% to handle 100% of the renovation, then it works for you. But finding that person and building that there's hurdles that are involved in that. So.
Yeah.
It's very hard, especially for me that I don't know anything about construction. Yeah. I have no idea. I know how to paint.
Joy, I wouldn't even try to learn it. And that's the thing. Like, we got to figure out, like, not everything is for everybody. Me and Seth had a call this morning. I'm like, Seth, like, I know how to wholesale, but that's just not me. Wholesaling is not just in my blood. I could do it, but it's not me. It doesn't align with, my goals and end. I can do it. I can transfer it off, So you have to figure out what aligns with you most and execute along those lines. Not everybody is, or not everything is for everybody. And then I want to go to some of the comments. Clarissa said, Joy, who, not how, right? Yeah, I love that.
A great book. If anybody's looking for a book to listen to on Audible or to read, Who Not How is the title of the book. It'll change your mind for sure.
Yeah. Triple H said the depreciation works so well for me with my taxes. Triple H, I don't know if you want to tell us, I don't want to put your business out there. If you could tell us, I know you did a cost segregation study. I don't know if you want to tell us how much you saved, or if you want to put out there what percentage of taxes you saved, how impactful it was. I'd love to hear from you on that.
Sure. So I did my cost seg on my Airbnb, and it came out to $75,000 of depreciation, which wiped out my total entire taxes for this year. So I didn't have to owe anything. I actually got back a bunch of money. So it also set me up for like it was first year depreciation. So I got all of my stuff. Plus now we have a strategy to write off my truck, write off like all the things with the properties. So like I feel like a burden just lifted off my shoulders, and I feel like I don't have to concentrate on getting guests in my Airbnb because of the cost savings that on all the expenditures that I put. It's now being written off. So I feel like I have a lot of breathing room and not have to worry about carrying costs for that.
Guys, what would you do? Triple H, appreciate you sharing. What would you do with an extra $75,000 right now? That'll fuel your next property. Joy, what could you do with an extra 100,000, 200,000 right now? That'll fuel your next property.
Buy another property.
There you go. Right. So don't worry too much about the cash flow on your end or the insignificant cash flow. I will be focused on tax. See, and this is why everybody's important to understand your bracket, who you are, what your goals are, and understand from when you go in, have a clear definition of what you want your goals to be. Your buy box, right? Joy's buy box is different from mine, different from Seth's, different from Eddie, different from Holly's. Our buy box are totally different. So you have to understand what your strategy is, talk with a tax strategist, get the plan settled out, and execute along those lines, right? Clear plan. Holly said, I don't either, Joy. I don't even know how to cut grass and had to hire. Yes, it's not for everybody, guys. Some of this stuff you got to source out. It's just not for everybody, right? I source a lot of things out. I like to keep a lot in mind because I want to learn. And some things, of course, is good to learn, but understand some things are a distraction, right?
Holly is brought up something that we're cutting grass. Like that's an expense that like for a flip that I forget all the time. I'm buying a property and I'm gonna be renovating it through the summer, and I'm like, oh my God, I got $50 a week I got to drop on this property just to cut the grass so that they don't give me a fine. Like,
yep.
I forget about it all the time. All the time. I want to pay every single yard.
Holly, are you cutting your grass now? Please tell me you're not cutting. I think Holly's cutting her grass right now, guys. She's saving that money. So, but she's taking it. There's the other thing. You might have the time where somebody else might not. You're in a different investment situation. Okay, I thought you were really cutting your grass. I was gonna say you're in a different investment situation than some other people too. You know, you did a house hack versus somebody who might have an investment, 20 minutes away from the house. You're not going to drop 20 minutes to cut the grass, right?
Nope.
Right. When I tell you, I literally did like a week.
Holly, you breaking up? Is it just me or is she breaking up?
Like I did not know. I don't know.
There you go.
Holly, we couldn't hear you. You broke up. I'm sorry. It sounded like it was very impactful. Type it in the chat if you can, Holly. You froze. Holly, I'm gonna mute you because you're going in and out. If you could put it in the chat, I think your phone, you might not have good signal.
Yeah, maybe with the video on, it's getting a bad connection. Sometimes turn the video off will help it.
I'm losing my Wi-Fi.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Go ahead now.
I said I didn't even know the difference between like if I needed a weed eater or a lawnmower.
Yeah.
So I literally don't know. I don't know. It's to me. Somebody else can do it. I don't know.
Leave it to the experts, right? The thing is, that's a distraction where you could be focused on finding your next deal or focused on improving your property, finding new tenants. That's a distraction. Leave that to somebody else.
And honestly, that's what that book, Who Not How, is it's all about, right? So it's 100%.
Real quick before we wrap up, Clarissa asked, separate meters for duplexes was mentioned earlier. When you analyze a deal that's not metered separately, how much do you factor in cost for metering separately? Depends on the area that you're investing. That could be a very broad thing. It depends on the electrician. That's another broad thing. So I know right now I'm getting a panel replaced. It's about $1,300 just for the material. I'm looking at about $1,350 just for material. So probably about $2,000 to get the panel replaced. That's a friendly quote, right?
Depends on if it's electrical, if it's mechanical, if it's plumbing,
yeah.
Right? Like, all those are different meters, right?
Yes,
and they have different costs.
Yes.
But what if it's only got one water meter coming in? There are ways to like put little sub meters so that you can charge them separately. But are the pipes run separately to each unit too, right? You may have to re-pipe an entire property or rewire an entire property to do it. So it's a case by case basis for sure for the property.
And for sure that can get expensive, very expensive, depending on how big of a property. And sometimes these costs
could be super cheap too.
Could
right?
be.
Like, I mean, if they're plumbed completely separately, they're just coming out of one meter for the water company, coming out of one meter from the street, but they actually separate and go to this hot water heater for this one and this hot water heater for this one, and all these faucets are being fed by over here and stuff like that. You can slap on a sub meter and have it metered separately for a couple $100.
The flip side of this too is that it might not be worth it in some scenarios. You can get the cost, but if you're talking about $18,000, $20,000, $30,000, and it's only going to save you $50, you kind of got to weigh that out. Is this really worth it? You know, because that's a big nugget to chew just to save $50 a month, right? What is your cash on cash return on that? You know, so that's something to know.
Are you tenants going to use the utilities or not too, right? If they start abusing your utilities, then it's going to cost you a lot more. So.
Yeah. So all things to factor in. All right, guys. Any more questions? Quote of the week. Seth, go ahead. Knock it out.
The key to rehabbing a burr property is to make the property as tenant-proof as possible, using materials that will last a long time and won't need to be redone later. It's a very common thing. It's beautiful. But a lot of people, they say, you know, you only need to put 10 grand if you're just going to put a tenant in here. You know, if you're going to flip it, it's probably going to be more like 40 grand. But a renovation for a rental, that's only going to be like 10 grand. Like, that's BS. Don't do that, right? You start putting in the Harbor Freight stuff and the project source at Lowe's and stuff like that. You're just going to replace it in 6 months to a year anyway.
Yeah. So play for the long-term game, guys. Make sure you're thinking about long-term, 5-year minimum, right?
Yep.
5-year minimum for every investment, burr, whatever you're doing, 5-year minimum. It should be your goal. Next Tuesday, property management done right. We got a special guest with us next Tuesday. If you guys have any questions that you want us to ask prior to, send me a DM, send me a message. I'll get it asked. We'll get it part of our slideshow so we can ask the property manager. I'm sure you have questions about finding the right property manager, how to vet them, etc. We will love to add this to our source. So please make sure you're here next week. It should be a very valuable, high-level conversation. We'd love to see you guys all again. We appreciate your time each and every Tuesday. To the people on Instagram, YouTube, it is always a pleasure to be here and spend our Tuesday with you as well.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
We will see you soon.
Thank you.